and get this set up, and then we're going to jump right in. Okay. All right. I've got some frequencies playing in the background for Bruiser, so hopefully they're not too loud. But yes, hello, welcome everyone. This is the Human Condition podcast series. I am Éoaccí Éin, and the Human Condition podcast series for me is a place where we remember that being human is divine. And I kept going back and forth about actually doing this live today. I was going to just simply, wait until Sunday and hop on and connect with everyone then. But it's just that consistent habit of wanting to wait until something changes or wanting to wait until a better time. So I said, no, I'm just going to hop on. I'm going to do a really quick one. I'm going to get on and connect with everyone. And I'm going to share with you guys a few things that's in my awareness that I believe is honestly so important for all of us. And as you can tell, I'm just, holding the phone. I'm just here for a really quick conversation. To explore the importance of where we place our awareness, where we place our attention, is the most important part of this process that we call manifestation. And what I mean by that is we have such a tendency to get caught up with how something is going to come to us. I mean, this has been, at least for me, probably one of the biggest things that I get snagged on is I get focused on how I need to make something happen, or I get caught up in, well, how is it going to look? Like, how is the money going to come to me? What does my offering need to look like? Is this going to be an offering that people like? With Bruiser's health, constantly wanting to monitor his, every little action and make sure that something's not wrong. And obviously this comes from a consistent pattern of focusing on my life and focusing on everything from the position of, I know what to do, but. And what I mean by that is anytime we walk around with this consistent awareness that we know everything, like we know how a manifestation is going to come, underneath that is really fear. We're really afraid that we don't have all the answers. We're afraid that we really don't know what's going to happen. So in order for us to feel like we're in control, in order for us to feel like we have control, we walk around under this guise, under this illusion. Our identity is literally consistently practicing, focusing its attention on needing to know or already knowing. And therefore, if I already know how it's going to happen, then I feel safe. But what's really interesting with that is that the universe or the quantum field is always going to deliver to us whatever it is we focus on the most. And since we're always going to get back where our attention goes, if we're not aware of where our attention is going, then we're going to be constantly trying to control something that we ultimately, number one, do not need to control. But at the end of the day, we didn't have to control because it was already going to come to us. We don't need to know the how. What we need to be aware of is where we're placing our attention. And since 9 times out of 10, we're not actually slowing down long enough to be aware of where our attention is going, our attention can literally be all over the place, and we're manifesting an echo chamber of what we don't want, or we're consistently manifesting from a loop or a cycle of experiences where maybe we have an awareness of what the lesson is. Maybe we believe we've learned the lesson, but we keep revisiting it. That's been my experience with Bruiser. There's the babies. That's been my experience with Bruiser, is even with all the times that I have revisited this lesson, this needing to let go of this emotional attachment, I consistently come back to that same lesson. And that's because since we're only a second long, anytime I'm slowing down long enough to interact with my reality, I am always like that rubber band snapping back into an experience with myself that does not feel safe in the interaction. It's constantly in a perception of belief that something is wrong here, that something isn't right, that I need to change something about what's happening. But what I want you guys to remember is that you don't change the 3D. Okay, the 3D is simply a reflection of something that's already complete. And I know this is something I've said before, and I'm going to continue to say it because it's so important to remember. You don't change the 3D. And also, if you're not aware of how you're interacting with the 3D will consistently be something that affects you. It'll consistently be something that's feeling as if it's forcing you to change or forcing you to do something because you're unhappy with what's happening or because you're emotionally unstable in the interaction with your 3D. Now, you do not have to have a perfect emotional state in order for you to experience the life that you want. What is required, however, is that you are responsible with your emotions and that you are responsible with your desires and your awareness, which is where a lot of times, I know at least with myself, that's where I've fallen short. When I have the opportunity to slow down and really be consistent with where I'm placing my awareness, I will catch myself and I will recognize where I'm really going as opposed to where I think I'm going. And that's also something I want you guys to make note of, is that a lot of times we're so busy, we're working, if you own your business like me, if you're working with clients, answering emails, answering phone calls, booking sessions, posting on social media, tending to everyday life, feeding your dog, feeding your cat, talking to your friends, you're not in a position of an awareness that's actually slowed down, right? Because you're doing. Your attention is focused on doing. It's focused on needing to complete the task. And when we're constantly going through our day focused on the task that we think we need to complete, we're not actually aware of where our awareness is coming from. We're not actually aware of the identity or the version of self that is projecting onto that task. And so one thing I would, invite in for everyone is to pay attention to where your awareness is going and pay attention to why. Because you don't need to know how anything is going to happen. You don't need to know when it's going to come to you. You don't need to know what it's going to look like. You can play in the imagination of that, but play in it from the position of non-expectation. Like if you already know that you already have everything that you want, then when you're playing in your imagination and you're playing in your 4D, you're not doing so because you expect it to happen that way. You're just doing it because you can, because you are the source and you hold the power. And a lot of times we go into that space and we visualize, or we meditate, and we slow down for that small amount of time. But then throughout the rest of our day, we're moving through this interaction with this movie and this story that we have created. And instead of constantly remembering that we are the source of the story, instead of constantly remembering that we are the source of everything that we're interacting with, we consistently, second to second, because that's the length of our existence, is 1 second long, we are interacting from a position of it happening to us, right? We've gone in, we've done the visualizations, we've done the meditations, we've slowed down, we've had an awareness of our behaviors and our actions. But then as soon as something happens to us and we feel a certain way, we feel out of control. And this is something I hear a lot. It's something I've experienced myself. And in those moments when you feel that interaction begin to sway you emotionally, remember that you're not only the source of that story, but you're also the source of how you respond to the story. The story's already been told. By the time you interact with it, the story has already, that moment, that version of awareness has already concluded. And so you're not meant to be interacting with it from a position of how do you change this, or, oh, well, I know where this is coming from. I know, like I have all the tools to manifest. I know what to do, but that's where that know-it-all gets us caught up. We know all the things, but we interact with our 3D from a position of not knowing how to consciously maintain what we know or how to consciously apply what we know. So if you're carrying around the story as if it's not already completed itself, you're going to be consistently fighting a battle of trying to change the story when the intention is not to change it, it's to interact with it from a position of love. You've already told the story. You've told it numerous times. By the time you interact with the story that you've already told, you're not trying to change it from that position. You're meant to be interacting with it from a position of love and acceptance and just knowing that it is literally happening for your best. Nothing ever happens to you, right? We hear this all the time. It doesn't happen to me. It happens through me. What does that mean though? It means that in that moment, what I'm interacting with is something that has been constantly flowing through me, that has been my awareness and my attention been consistently been given to this story, this train of thoughts, this idea, this concept. And now I have an opportunity to interact with that on the material plane. And as I'm interacting with a story that I consistently tell myself over and over and over again, like, I can say that I know I could say, like, I know I'm meant to be a millionaire, or I know that I exist as someone that has infinite amounts of money in a parallel life. But right now, I don't have enough money in my bank, but right now I'm stuck in a 9 to 5 that I don't like. The I know, but anything after that but is where we remain consistently cycled in the story. It's where we consistently loop. It's where the record is stuck. And so in order for that needle to get lifted and moved and the song to consistently play where it can come to a point of completion, you have to recognize that that line, the line on the record that it's stuck on, is what you're consistently stuck in terms of your subconscious awareness. Your awareness is constantly going to that specific train of thought. Your subconscious awareness is going to the feelings or the emotions that maintain that state of thought. So whenever you interact with this version of yourself in your 3D, interact with it from a position of knowing that that's already complete. You don't do anything about it. If you want to, and we also have to remember, also, let me put a side note here. When you're in the middle of a transitional state, like right now, I'm going through a process where things are really, really, really transitioning for me. It's been happening since about June, I would say, April, May, probably May or June. And literally, and I've mentioned this multiple times, everything that I have been comfortable with over the last few years has been moved out of my reality. So everything that was keeping me consistently coming back to the same comfort zone has been removed. Things that you could say I've lost everything that was allowing me to experience this reality that I've been in for the last few years. And one of the things that I started doing was I started saying, I am choosing a higher level of self-responsibility and accountability. So I'm day to day speaking that I am ready for a higher level of responsibility and accountability, which means that I'm going to be asked to maintain that truth. If I'm really serious about that truth, my reality is going to ask me, basically, by reflecting back to me the opportunities of the stories that I've been telling prior to that truth. It's going to say, okay, well, if you're really ready for this next level of responsibility, are you going to maintain the stories that are coming from a lack of responsibility? If you're going to maintain those stories, then you don't move into the level of responsibility you're capable of. You're going to be consistently latched onto and emotionally connected to the comfort zone that isn't going to allow you to move forward. It's like an anchor. It's like I'm trying to move my ship further out from harbor and moving it further out from shore, but I can't because I'm dragging this really heavy anchor. And that anchor is my comfort zone, which comes with all of the ways of thinking, all of the ways of believing. It comes with all of the places of suffering that I am most comfortable in. And what's really interesting about that is we end up consistently maintaining that state of suffering because it is comfortable, because it is familiar. And honestly, until we're in a position where we're really, really actually going to maintain a state of responsibility, we're going to be given opportunities to move further away from it. It's not to hurt us. It's not even really self-sabotage. It's just familiarity. You could call it self-sabotage if you want, but it's really just familiarity. And this familiarity is the familiarity of lack. And, for me, I know that if $1 million had been handed to me even earlier this year, I would not have been in a level of emotional maturity to maintain financial security from the place that I am now. And so literally I've had access, literally to clients and to money. I could, ask a client for a certain amount. Let's say I asked a client for $222 and that client would actually give me 2,000. That's the way I'm used to receiving. I would always get more most of the time than what I asked for because I know the work that I do is powerful. I know that it's transformative. And I always had enough money where if I wanted to invest in someone else's work, I could readily do that. For the last few years, I've been helping my family. I've been paying, helping support them. I've been paying for things for other people. But what was really interesting is I was not reinvesting that money into myself until this year. I would put a little bit of it back into my business, but I wasn't really reinvesting it. I was pouring so much energy, so much attention, so much of my awareness onto others because I didn't realize I was actually uncomfortable with that level of attention onto myself. And here's the really interesting thing when it comes to receiving more money. You have a lot more eyes on you. You have a lot more attention, a lot more focus coming to you, a lot more people looking to you to learn from you when your level of self-accountability and responsibility elevates itself. And in that, you're also going to get just as many that are going to look to you with judgment, with discord, and with jealousy. And if you're not at a level of emotional maturity, that's why there are so many people out there that have tons of money that are just completely unhappy. And that's because they're looking for they're thinking that the money is going to give them happiness. They think that the new circle of friends and the new circle of multimillionaires is going to give them happiness. They think that all the material items are going to give them freedom. They think that, that the money is going to somehow grant them a better life, but it doesn't, because that was never the job of the money. The money's only job is to reflect back to you your level of emotional maturity. And just like anything else in this life, just like anything else in the 3D. And money is simply a currency of your emotional state. And if you're lacking emotional maturity and emotional responsibility, it doesn't mean you can't receive larger amounts of money, but it means they're going to come to you from a place of stress and just sleepless nights, working a lot. It's basically you're having to sacrifice certain parts of your life. And I'm not saying that you don't work harder than maybe you would have when you start to elevate your level of financial accountability. You do. But the whole point of financial accountability and responsibility and financial freedom is freedom with time. And if you're losing more time, but you're gaining more money, then you're still losing. So for me, to me, money is a reflection of how accountable I am with my time. And that's how I'm accountable with my energy, which is my emotions and my thoughts. So I'm really grateful for this space I'm in right now. And I'm sharing this with you all because I really and truly believe that the more that we maintain a sense of emotional accountability for ourselves in every moment, in every second that we interact with the story that's passing through, the closer we get to receiving more of ourselves back. I could look at where I'm at right now, and it's very easy because so much has moved out. It would be very easy to say that I've lost everything. But every powerful, influential person that I respect, admire, and look up to has gone through this process right now. And if there's anyone out there that's like in the multimillionaire, billionaire status that has not gone through a quote unquote loss of everything, I just can't relate to them. Not that I can't. I can't, I've worked with them before, but the ability to really see how they have faced that type of challenge, it's just not there, right? Maybe they came from money. Obviously coming from money carries a lot of really great financial advice. I'm not saying don't listen, you absolutely should. But going through the process of really having to sit down and slow down and look at how you're handling your life, that's really important. Because a lot of people are they're trying to micromanage everything, and they're constantly looking through a lens of what they don't have. They may know that they can be positive. They may know that they can be more emotionally responsible. But when it comes down to that moment that really triggers the story, that brings the story to the surface, the story that says I'm unworthy, the story that says I don't have enough, the story that says it's too hard, it's too difficult for me, I'll never be in the position of this person, I'll never be that successful, I'll never have what they have. When that comes to the surface, what are you doing with it? Because no matter how much you know, how you are with that information determines the level of accountability and responsibility you're accessing, which then is directly correlated to where you spend the majority of your awareness. Think of your awareness as an investment of currency. And when you're investing your currency in those stories, that's where the return on your investment comes from. So for me, the most important thing for me right now is maintaining a return on my investment by consciously and constantly placing my awareness on how much I have and how wonderful things are for me. Hello and welcome. And it's easy to do that when things are going good. But when there's a moment that passes through where that story comes to the surface, where all the emotions are connected to it, that's when I'm really being asked by that version of myself that I keep saying I want to manifest from. That's when that version of me is saying, okay, are you going to really be responsible for your emotions right now? Are you going to be responsible for your thoughts right now? Are you going to allow the story that you've always said, that you've always actively pursued, that story that says things are horrible, they're going wrong, I've done something wrong, this is bad, what do I need to do to change it? Am I going to invest the currency of my awareness into that story, or am I going to make a different deposit? Because money, again, money is a currency, it's a vibrational currency, and it's going to come to us through love, or it's going to come to us through fear. And right now, restructuring my relationship with that currency is where I'm at. And I was talking to a dear sister about 2 days ago, and she's got a beautiful offering that she's putting out that she was inviting me to. And we were discussing, because she's someone I look up to. She has worked with one of the most well-known, I would say probably the most well-known mentors in self-development and, identity and, motivational speaking. And I admire everything that she does. And I was sharing with her where I'm at right now. And she shared back with me a story of where she's gone through a similar experience where she was basically in the same position. And what I loved is that not only did I get to hear that from her, that she's had a similar experience, but even the offering that she's putting out right now is being birthed from her pain. And that speaks to what we do with what we learn. A lot of times we go through these processes and we don't actually take what we've learned and apply it. We look at what's happening as something that's derailing us, as something that's keeping us stuck. And essentially it can feel that way. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you can actually be reborn through the lessons that you're learning. You can take that invested currency of attention and reallocate it into a different source. And the question is, are you investing in yourself as the source, or are you investing in yourself as the victim? Are you being reborn again through the pain that you're experiencing? Are you letting it keep you small? Are you letting it keep you in a position of the victim? Are you looking around you? Are you choosing to take the information and use it as a reason why things are wrong? Or are you taking the information and using it as a reason why things are working out for the best? And that's what it's all going to boil down to. As difficult, as challenging, as seemingly traumatic as the last few weeks have been for me, it's I would say every self-conscious belief of being unworthy has come to the surface. I've had an opportunity to really be with who I really am. It's been the most humbling experience of my life. And there's something to be said about going through that process of being humbled. Most of the time, we're living in such a state of unawareness And we're trying so hard to maintain an image. We're trying so hard to manage what people think about us. We're trying so hard to pretend to be perfect that we don't see ourselves for who we really are. And one of the first things I said when I came forward and I shared with what was going on, when I started sharing that on my platforms, I said, I'm not whoever the fuck I thought I was, I'm not that person. Like I have been taken down a few notches. I am not who I thought I was, but I can see who I have been. And that's somebody who is arrogant, that I was so arrogant. I was someone that just knew everything. I always had to control everything. I was a know-it-all. And that's the identity that I was constantly acting from. Now that I have been humbled by life, by my own identity, by these lessons coming back to me, the way I see money, the way I see Bruiser, the way I see my parents, the way I see anyone that I'm interacting with is completely different. I am looking at life with this immense state of gratitude, because in a moment I saw, and I know, again, I've known this, but in a moment I was able to experience how quickly everything was taken or almost taken. And when everything leaves, everything that you're used to, everything you're comfortable with, when the money, when the loved ones, when the things that maintain your sense of safety and security, when all that's stripped, pretty much, you're humbled. And see, there's a position I've been in where I chose to be homeless, right? I was a drug addict for my entire life. Just up until less than 10 years ago, I was homeless, living on the streets. That was when Bruiser came into my life. And again, that's why Bruiser and I have such a deep connection, is because he came into my life while I was homeless. Being in that position of having nothing, that was a choice. Like, I knew that was where I was going to be because I was making that decision. Recently, being in a position where I had built myself up and I had all this money coming in and I had access to pay for whatever I wanted and I had access to receive whatever I wanted. When I started making the conscious decision to let go of that, not knowing what it was going to look like, not knowing what was going to come out of that, and also knowing at the same time that it was necessary, I mean, that was really massive. Most people that have an income that they're receiving of $15,000 for one client, that's what I was getting paid. I consciously decided to let go of that stream, of that currency, because the clients that I was interacting with, there was a massive level of codependency. And I knew that at this next level of accountability and responsibility, that's not where I wanted to be. I knew that I had the opportunity to interact with a completely different wavelength of clients, a completely different wavelength of people that could come into this, that could receive this, that could apply this, and could apply it instantly without using me as a source of blame. That's what was happening before with clientele. Now I have those coming into my field that are taking what I say immediately, applying it, and the shifts happen immediately. And instead of getting this reactivity from people like, how dare you reflect my behaviors back to me, how dare you, you made me feel like, that's the way it used to be. People would say I made them feel a certain way by simply just being the mirror, because they were not in a space of emotional availability. They could not hear who they were. They were not ready to receive themselves. And guess what? Neither was I. And now that I am, I know that I not only have the capacity and the ability to receive 15 to 20K per client, but more. But I had to make myself available to receive that. And it's really beautiful when you align with people that not only want to receive what you're saying, but are willing to apply it, not because I'm saying it, but because there is an agreement that I'm reaching. Like, if I reach out to someone for help and support, it's because I know I'm requiring whatever is there. Like, I'm intentionally and consciously reaching out because they're going to say something in a way that I need to hear it. It doesn't mean I'm going to like it. It doesn't mean it's not going to make me feel a certain way. But what it does mean is that I can use what is being said to support me to my highest and greatest degree. And now that I'm interacting with others that are now that I've aligned with that currency of people and that currency of receiving, every single day I have to consistently show up and prove to myself and my reality that I'm going to maintain myself there. Because how can I maintain a consistent state of receiving millions if I'm rejecting the level of accountability and responsibility that's required for it? You know, I definitely know that if more money had come in sooner, I would not have been ready for it. And now I have a financial advisor that I know I can turn to. I have so many things lined up, and I am in a position of being completely and fully available and ready for everything that's coming to me now. So, like I said, today was about me getting on here and me showing up, even though I didn't want to. I didn't want to. I was telling myself all the reasons why I shouldn't, all the reasons why nobody's going to be here, all the reasons why nobody's going to receive it. Oh, I don't even really know what I'm going to talk about. So there's going to be days where I do this and it's not perfect and it maybe doesn't flow the same as other days where I feel more prepared. But the point is to get on here and to speak. And the point is to share what's on my heart. And the point is to show up and be seen. Because the more that I stand behind that shadow self that's whispering in my ear and saying, yeah, today's not good. You shouldn't do it. You haven't really felt 100%. You're not really prepared. You're not really feeling enough right now. It's really easy to stand behind that and listen to that voice and say, oh, you know what? You're right. You're right. I really shouldn't do it. I really should wait until I'm more prepared, until things are better. But that's what keeps me in a position of not experiencing the full level of myself and not experiencing myself at my highest and greatest capacity. We have to be willing to be seen no matter what, because I can guarantee you all the people that I admire, that I've worked with, my mentors that have started multiple multi-million-dollar businesses, the ones that have lost multi-billion-dollar businesses and started them up again, they've got a lot of eyes on them and they're connecting with a lot of people and they're constantly being seen. But who's really seeing us? That's the question. Who's really seeing you? You are. Nobody else is. And for those people that are the people that are seeing me and judging me, I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to the ones that are listening. Those are the versions of me. That's the echo chamber of me that's here to receive the love and the embodiment that I exist as, the appreciation that I exist as. The ones that are going to show up and that are going to trash talk, and the ones that are going to judge, and the ones that are going to project, and the ones that are going to act, in a different manner, I'm not speaking to them. That's not my audience anyways. And that's the biggest thing I want to share with anyone that's planning on doing a podcast or going live or sharing on your platform and you've been afraid to share your voice. Those that you think are going to judge you, your voice isn't for them. It was never for them. And it's the judgments of yourself that you're getting back. And when you can stand in the light of your voice and you can stand in the power of yourself and who you are in this moment right now and not run away and not hide and not try to perfect and just simply exist as you are and be in love with that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there could be a zero right now. Maybe there is a zero right now. I don't know. Maybe there's a couple of people. Maybe there's 100. I don't know. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that I chose to be here. I chose to be visible. I chose to show up. I chose to share. Every single time I do this, I am showing my nervous system that it's safe. I'm showing that I can receive more because I'm putting more out. And I'm allowing myself to place my awareness and my attention on the audience that I am available to receive. And that's the audience that was always going to receive. Because a lot of times, and I know myself, I was constantly trying to perfect my performance to please the ones that I thought were unhappy. And my loves, you're never going to make someone happy that is ultimately unhappy, because that's not your job, nor is it in your power to do so. Those that are unhappy they've literally chosen to be. And the version of them that exists in your reality is based on your beliefs in them or the generalizations of them to begin with. That's all it is. And so if you believe that the only way that you're going to experience a successful platform or success with your voice is by making those that judge you happy, then you're going to be fighting against the grain. You're going to be fighting against the current, because those people were never there for you to impress anyways. They were there to be white noise in the background. Where is your attention going to go? It's, again, the voice in your head that tells you you're not enough. Do you give that the voice the most attention? Because the voice that's coming at you with judgment is the same thing. It's the same echo chamber. Wherever you give your attention the most, that's where you're going to be magnetically drawn, because that's where your imprint is. So make a new imprint. Stop trying to impress those that were never there to receive you. Choose to give the voice that is loving, kind, generous, open, accepting, the one that sees everything through a lens of appreciation. Give that your attention. Let that voice weigh heavily on you in your internal state. Let that voice be the voice of reason, not the voice that tells you that you can't or that you need to do something different. It doesn't mean that you can't see that there's always room to improve on yourself, but seeing that there's room to improve on yourself is vastly different than judging yourself. Because there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. As I said in the very beginning of this, to be human is to be divine. The human condition is divine. There's nothing wrong with the human condition. So if we embrace the human condition for what it is, then we begin to embrace our humanness with a little bit more compassion and acceptance. And likewise, we begin to embrace others from that place. Because there's no possible way that we can love and appreciate anyone else if we haven't started with ourselves. So my invitation for each of you, no matter what it is you're trying, quote unquote, trying to manifest in your life right now, remember, first and foremost, you're already manifesting. You don't have to try. Number two, wherever you give your awareness and your attention the most, that's what you're getting from your quantum. Your quantum is literally a reflection of your RAS, and your RAS is the tunnel or the gateway in which, literally, out of all the millions of bits of information that you receive every second, we're literally only receiving like 40 to 60 of those million bits. So make it count. Okay, your brain is literally filtering out 99.9% of everything that you receive. So what is it that you are choosing to receive? That is the biggest thing I want you to take away from this. That's your currency. That's your value system, if you will. Your value system is what you directly correlate to with your awareness. It's what you give your attention to the most. That's what you're cashing in on, okay? That's what you think is valuable. That's what you think is important. So what are you giving your attention to? You could think of it as your mental money system, okay? Your awareness is where your currency flows. So out of that 40 to 60 bits, out of the millions of billions, make sure you make it count. Make sure that it is something that is aligned with acknowledging how wonderful your life already is. Because every experience, even if it's a lesson, is showing you that. The question is, are you seeing through the lens that is allowing that to be your truth instead of how bad things are? And I'm not saying, we all go through really challenging times. I'm not saying that you're not going to face a challenge. I'm saying that you can face the challenge differently if you choose. You're the source of the challenge. And if you're not clear with your intentions, if you're not clearly focused with your awareness, your RAS is going to fill in the blanks with what's most familiar. And you have to recognize, if your familiar zone is lack and scarcity, your blanks are always going to be filled in with lack and scarcity. You're always going to have the evidence to prove that. So fill your awareness up with how abundant you are. Fill your awareness up with how wonderful you are, with how healthy you are right now. Because if not, you're going to be trying to control your present moment from a past awareness that's already completed itself in hopes for a different future. And that's not going to happen. So, love, Love all versions of you equally, but be exceptionally loving to whatever's moving through right now. Because at whatever point in time that your awareness was focused on that story, that's the one piece of the puzzle that was missing, was love. Because when we're constantly seeing lack and how wrong and bad things are, we're not seeing the love. We're not seeing the compassion. We're not seeing the gift of abundance. So return that to yourself. Give yourself a return on investment. Give yourself some love right now. Give yourself some appreciation right now, and do so for whatever is passing through, because you can't change that. It's already happened. Yeah. And that's what I want to leave with you guys today. So I thank you for being here. I appreciate anyone and everyone who shows up to receive this. Like I said, today was simply just a last minute, I'm going to do this. No sharing, no putting it out there, no letting people know ahead of time like I think I shared it on Instagram like right as I went live. But, I appreciate you guys being here. And for those that decided to receive this, I would love to hear in the comments whatever notes you took or whatever stood out to you the most. That always means a lot. I always love reading and receiving what landed the most for someone. And I would say the biggest lesson right now for me, for my clients, for those that I'm interacting with, for my friends, is learning to live in gratitude and appreciation for what's here right now. And letting that interaction with our reality be one of seriously just immense gratitude. And training the nervous system constantly training the nervous system that I can know everything that there is to know about quantum mechanics, manifestation. I can know all there is to know about that. But if I am still reacting to my reality, what I know doesn't matter because I'm not applying it. So you can know all there is to know. If that but is still coming in, like, oh, I know everything you're saying. I read about this. I listen to the podcast. I know all the things, but the but is where your reality is manifesting from, not anything that precedes it. So start applying what you know by first and foremost being in love and acceptance with what's here right now. If you can love your most fearful moments, if you can love the people that you literally can't stand, if you can look back on every person in your reality, the past relationships, the relatives, if you can literally sit in an embrace of acceptance, you're starting to train yourself to simply accept everyone and everything as it is. And that's a really good baseline, is to work with what you already know, not just the information, but the real life experiences. Work with what you know and sit with those and apply that knowing. Apply the acceptance. Sit with the exes that you can't stand. Go through the process of being in love with the relationship so that no matter what comes into your life from this point forward, you can be in love and acceptance instead of rejection and denial and avoidance. So yeah, that's what I'm going to leave you guys with for today. I will be back here on Sunday. As always, I'm here every Sunday with these lives. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on some things, and I really am excited to see you guys then. I trust that everything that's been shared here today is supporting you for the highest and greatest good always. If you have any questions, you can drop them into the comments below. If you're interested in working with me, I will have that information in the description as always. And if you just want to reach out and have a conversation, you can also reach me at the email that will be provided. Yeah, and that's all for now. So thank you guys. I love you immensely, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. So until then.